Hello and welcome to another episode of the Voices of the Vic with me, Mike Duffy, and as always, my co-host Ben Aiton. But, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, we've got our very first guest appearance. Now, better late than never and whatnot. Ben is obviously with me as always. So first, we'll say hello to Ben. Ben, how's it been going? You've been a busy man today on media duties as we record this on Wednesday. How's your day been?
Hello, mate. Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, as you mentioned, I've done a bit of work for BBC Radio 1 today. They've very messaged and wanted a Watford fan to get in touch just to go over the last couple of days and the build-up for the relegation decider pretty much at the weekend. So, yeah, busy on my end, but yeah, all good, mate.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yes, we did hear that on BBC Radio 1 earlier. If you haven't seen it already, it's on our Instagram. Very, very good. And like I said, for the first time ever, we got a guest appearance, and it's no other than Mr. Watford Way, I think we'll call him, James from the Watford Way, the Watford fan page. James, firstly, how are you? And secondly, thanks very much for agreeing to come on the show.
No problem, Mike. Always a pleasure to talk to you other Watford fans. I'm not doing great after this weekend's results, and obviously Tuesday's a big day to be a Watford fan with a 4-0 defeat to Manchester City, and then obviously after our game, Arsenal, Aston Villa, that did not go our way at all.
It did not, and we will talk about that in this episode. But I think, because we actually haven't got round to speaking about it as of yet, I think the only place we can start is obviously the result last week against West Ham didn't go to plan, but it was the news a couple of days after that on a Sunday where it had sort of broke that Nigel Pearson and Craig Shakespeare had sort of left. I say left. Pearson was sacked. They then asked Shakespeare to take over. But to be fair to Shakespeare, as he's been sort of Pearson's right-hand man wherever he's gone, he sort of kindly declined the offer, and that was that. First of all, Ben, I just want to know when that news broke, because ladies and gents, I was in no state to be reacting to any sort of news on Sunday. That was the worst I've ever felt. So I was sort of glad that I didn't have to deal with all the social media reaction. But less said about that, the better. But Ben, when you saw the news break on Sunday, because if I remember correctly, I think there was a few whispers before. So the Daily Mirror had said something and a few other outlets had said something. I thought, they're just saying it. But then it actually broke. So what was your initial reaction? What was your first reaction when you saw that Sky Sports saying Nigel Pearson's been sacked?
First reaction was wow. Couldn't believe it. Wasn't expecting it. Yes, we didn't turn up at West Ham and the performance was pretty shambolic, but I wasn't expecting us to sack our manager 2 games remaining in the season. It's just completely thrown us. Wasn't expecting it at all, mate. You can kind of see if there has been something going on behind the scenes, why Gino's reacted and wanted him out through the door, but in my eyes, I think it was a bit stupid. Regardless whether Pearson stays to the end of the season or if he renews his contract and he looks after us next season, I thought it was a bit disrespectful for Watford to get rid of Pearson, especially after what he did for us. We were dead and buried. He pulled us up the table. I think he's got the biggest winning percentage as a Watford manager ever in the Premier League as well. And I'm quite curious to know how we would have fared against Man City and Arsenal if we had Pearson. I think it has affected performance as well.
Yeah. Now, James, before I come to you on your verdicts, obviously, for those that don't know what we're talking about when Ben says a few sort of stories, we have to be careful what we say here because we don't know what's actually correct and whatnot. But allegedly, there was quite a bust-up in the changing rooms at half-time. Obviously, we saw Messina come off at half-time, and he didn't have the best of games against West Ham in the first half, and he was brought off, and rightly so. But allegedly, Messina was sort of struck by Pearson, and there was a bit of a fracas in the dressing room at half-time. And like I say, I just want to stress that is allegedly. That's not us confirming anything. We don't know any other than what everybody else has said, but we think that might be the reason why Mr. Pozzo sort of had the sacked Nigel Pearson, because there was quite an argument after the game as well, from what we hear as well. But James, based on when the news broke, what was your initial reaction?
So initially, I thought it was fake, because I just couldn't believe that we would do something like that, especially with two games to go in this season. In terms of what actually happened at the West Ham game, I think Adam Leventhal for The Athletic done a really good article, essentially summing up why the Pozzos made that decision. And as I was reading through that, there was points touching on his substitutions, his tactical decisions. I think the decision to bring Abdoulaye Doucouré off midway through the second half wasn't looked very well on by the Pozzos. Obviously, we know that Felipe Giraldi is a very controversial figure within the Watford fan base, and I'm sure, as you all saw, he was also present at that game. My initial reaction, flabbergasted, couldn't believe it, and actually quite sad, because Nigel Pearson and Craig Shakespeare come across to me like quite decent blokes, so I was quite sad to see them go.
Yeah, no, and listen, I think that we'll sort of leave it there with the Pearson reaction, because I think what you two guys have said so far has pretty much touched upon what every Watford fan's thinking. It was a shock to the system. Yes, we were poor against West Ham, but ultimately nobody saw us sacking Pearson, especially not with 2 games to go. You'd at least give him till Man City and Arsenal, and then, okay, if we go down, we'll assess it from there. And it's since come out that he wouldn't have stayed, so the reports are saying, and he is due quite a big payout as well. So that could have been another reason why. But I think both of you have touched superbly on that, and not that he will be listening, but on the off chance he is, or someone that knows him is, we
never know. Pep was listening last week.
He was, yeah. Pep was listening. Although we'll get onto that in a minute, Ben. But he sort of did listen, but then on the other hand, it was sort of a backhanded compliment to us. But if he's, if the word does get about, then we genuinely cannot thank Nigel enough. Like Ben said before, when he first come in, we were dead and buried, 7 points adrift at the bottom of the table. We were sort of, I think I'd booked my train tickets to Wigan away already halfway through the season. So that's how sort of dead and buried we were and whatnot. But yeah, no, we'd just like to put on record that we are very thankful of the work that Pearson and Shakey's done at the club. And going forward, we hope that Stacky and Mullins can actually get us on it. Unfortunately, where we'll start on the next bit of sort of news, is it wasn't quite to be. Mullins and Stack, their first game in charge against Manchester City. So you're going into Man City, right, and you're sort of thinking, right, firstly, I'll ask you both first. James, I'll come to you first. Firstly, are you thinking damage limitation, or are you thinking, do you know what? City are a bit of a wounded animal. Let's sort of go at them. We're at home. You just never know. What are you thinking tactically and game plan wise before the Man City game? Because bear in mind as well, we have had some seriously big drubbings from Man City. So what was your thoughts before the match in terms of how we'd set up and how we'd go about our game plan? What did you want?
Absolutely. So what I felt before the match, I think I spoke to you before the match actually, Mike, on Instagram as well. And I think as Watford fans, we all have to have a little bit of hope when we go into matches like that. I personally was hoping we could potentially get a draw out of the game. There would have obviously been a big ask, and after watching it, that was obviously not the case. But I think it was a case of damage limitation. Obviously, we will know the situation with Aston Villa and our goal difference. We were actually, before the match, in probably quite a significantly better position in terms of goal difference, probably 4 or 5 better off than Aston Villa. So best case scenario was a draw. But for me, I would have been okay, conceding 1 or 2. Obviously, it turned out to be 4 goals, and we're actually equal on goal difference with Aston Villa now. In terms of team selection, I think I agreed with the decision to drop Adam Messina. Obviously, you touched on his performance against West Ham earlier. Adrian Mariappa coming in, and I don't think there was much more he could have done for me. So it was a case of damage limitation. yeah, it obviously didn't turn out too well as it
No.
came to fruition
But
on Tuesday evening.
in terms of the team selection, and don't worry, Ben, we'll get round to you in a minute. But in terms of the team selection, James, was there anyone that was sort of included that you thought, oh, I don't know about that, or was you genuinely on a whole sort of thinking, well, we haven't really got much else. This will sort of have to do, or you were content with it?
So for me at the time, the decision to start Roberto Pereira and Troy Deeney, I was not happy with that. But as it turned out, Pereira was probably one of our best players in the game. But touching on Troy Deeney and his selection, obviously we're all aware of his ongoing knee issues. And look, in the first half, I'm not sure there's much more anyone could have done to stop Manchester City. They're a world-class side, and whether you put Andre Gray up front or Danny Welbeck, they would have dominated possession regardless. So in terms of team selection, I was expecting Troy Deeney to start. But yeah, I wasn't surprised when I saw the starting lineup.
Yeah. And Ben, same question to you really. Going into the game, what were your honest thoughts? Were you thinking, okay, we can get a draw here, or was you thinking, okay, let's, as long as we keep it sort of below 2-3-0, goal difference doesn't get damaged too much? What was your thoughts going into the game?
I didn't really have much hope going into the game. Like James has touched upon, Manchester City are so I've got a helicopter going over my head. This probably isn't ideal.
Are you flying a plane that says Pearson out, or we can't answer him, ladies and gents? Get at him on Twitter.
Girardi out.
Yeah, sorry, carry on, Ben.
As James has touched upon, Manchester City are a very, very world-class side. So I had no hope really going into the game. Best case scenario was probably sneaking a draw out of it. And also keeping the goals down because we know how vital goal difference is going to be for us to stay in this division. And unfortunately, our goal difference took a bit of a hammering yesterday. But goal difference could have been worse. I know Villa have overtaken us in goal difference now, but
only by one.
Only by one, which is it's still. There's still something there for us to claw on and try and get out of this mess that we're in.
There is. And carry on.
And team selection-wise, totally understand why Messina wasn't starting. I was surprised that Maps came in. I thought Maps was going to get destroyed. I think he got nutmegged about 4 times during the game. I was expecting Holebas to come in from the cold if Messina wasn't playing, but wasn't to be. And no Danny Welbeck as well. I thought Welbeck was going to carry on the left-hand side, but Pereira came in for him. But Pereira, I thought he did a lot of dirty work yesterday as well. So
he did. Now this is what I'm thinking. You know, I'm going into the game, and I'll be honest. So I try and remain as positive as possible as a Watford fan, and it's only possible so many times after watching us this season. But I thought, the back of my mind, I thought, we can maybe get a draw here. And then as close as kickoff approached, closer and closer and closer, and especially when the teams are announced, I thought, right, okay, I'll take anything less than 2-0. And that will be sort of job done, if you like. But the team news, I wasn't perhaps very comfortable with Femenia on the left. Now, I wasn't expecting Messina to start at all because of the West Ham game. But it looks as if Holebas is off to Schalke, evidently. If you haven't already, Diana Holebas, his wife, put on Instagram the other day of moving boxes, and it was like a Union Jack flag, and then it was like moving 2, and then a German flag, and then somebody else has done more detective work and seen that she's followed Schalke. So whether I don't know if it's going to be Schalke, but it looks as if Holebas is back off to Germany. So I'm not too surprised that Holebas wasn't actually involved. But Femenia on the left, he's not a left-sided player. We touched on it last week, me and Ben did. He's not really a defender, so it sort of worried me going up against the likes of Kyle Walker and Cancelo and Silva, because they do push up City's fullbacks do. So I thought, okay, we could be in for quite a rough ride. And then to see Mariappa come in, I thought, Jesus. He did get megged a couple of times as well, but he didn't do as bad as I think perhaps people thought he would have done. But I was very surprised to see Pereira. I definitely would have stuck with Welbeck, even if we would have put Welbeck sort of more central, and that meant that maybe Pedro come in, because I did think Pedro might get more of a chance, because Mullins obviously knows the youngsters and whatnot, and they're not afraid to give him a chance. So, but on the whole, I can't sort of be too disgruntled with the lineup. It was a 4-5-1. I think the graphic showed 4-3-3 by the looks of it, but it was a 4-5-1, and it's nice to see a formation change, because I was so worried that it was going to be the same team that played against West Ham or someone. And then I'm thinking, well, what's the point? This is what Pearson was sacked for. But we sort of started the game okay. It took Man City 31 minutes to score. Now, for me, time was going ridiculously slow. But James, for you, was you sort of sitting there as the minutes went on thinking, hang on a minute, if we can make it to half time, who knows what could happen? Or was you thinking one of these is going to go in? We are going to concede before half time. What was you thinking as the sort of minutes ticked on horrendously slow?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we got to, my first target was that first drinks break, and we actually got to that drinks break at 0-0, and Manchester City were dominating possession at the time. I think Ben Foster had pulled off quite a good save just before that drinks break. But we weren't really offering anything going forward, and that did worry me. But I was kind of, when watching the game, I was setting myself little targets. So get to 10 minutes, get to the drinks break, get to half time. So yeah, that's kind of what I was doing, and I assume that's what Hayden Mullins would have told the Watford players as well. But obviously, it wasn't to be with Raheem Sterling getting that first goal.
Yeah, I don't think he meant that, Ben. Do you know when you're watching the game in sort of in real time, so to speak, when he's absolutely bollocks that, isn't he? He's just put so much power in. I think that he's gone to sort of whiz it across the face of goal so someone
outside
can maybe get a tap in. I don't think he's meant that, but look, it was a brilliant goal. No keeper stopping that. But would you agree with what James has said? Was you sort of thinking, okay, 10 minutes has gone, 0-0? Because Bill Leslie, the commentator, said, I can't remember what minute it was. It might have been like 10 or 30 minutes. He goes, this time earlier in the season, Watford were already 5-0 down. I thought, well, I'll tell you what, let's blow the whistle now, shall we? But was you sort of thinking as the game went on, like, 10 minutes, 0-0, water break, 0-0, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 0-0, and then 31, obviously, they scored. But was you thinking, hang on a minute, we could do something here? Because I think a lot of Watford fans were actually thinking that, but they won't admit it.
Yeah, 100%. With each minute going by, it kind of gives you a bit more thought. We can get something out of it. Within 20 minutes, they haven't scored. I actually thought we was quite disciplined in defence for the first half of the pitch, following men, tracking everyone, getting stuck in, winning balls. I know we didn't do much with the ball when we had it, but we was doing all the stuff off the ball perfectly. I thought we was really good defensively until that ball went in. But yeah, as you say, Sterling absolutely levered that ball in the back of the net. There was no way Foster was going to get anything on that.
No. Well, I mean, like you say, there's only so much you can do against Man City. You have to be realistic as well as optimistic at times, because, like you said, whenever we had the ball, we just didn't have the space to do anything. Like, Man City are so quick to close you down, and they just cut off any vision of pass. And I think Pereira, as James touched upon earlier, I think Pereira actually had one of his better games this season. And for a guy who's rumoured to be off at the end of this season, he actually put in half a decent shift, and he's come under a lot of criticism from me as well. I'll hold my hands up, but one thing I've always thought with Pereira, not just this season, any season, he's never really got back and done the dirty work. But yesterday, I think it was one of his more inspired performances in a Watford shirt, and probably the last time we'll see Pereira play at Vicarage Road, unless we miraculously get to Europe somehow and play his team he's moving to in Italy. But you get my gist. So yeah, Raheem Sterling put Man City 1-0 up at 31 minutes. We're sort of thinking, okay, let's, go into half-time, 1-0, then who knows, if we can ride it out and ride a 1-0 out, you never know. Raheem Sterling doing what Raheem Sterling does best, very quick feet in the box. Will Hughes brings him down. In real time, to me, it looked like a penalty. And to be honest, I still think it was a penalty after the replays, but the replays show that Will Hughes got a touch on the ball. Ben, firstly, were your thoughts at the time that it was a penalty, or did you think after seeing replays, actually, no, that shouldn't have been a penalty, or was you pretty much, you can't really argue those ones?
Yeah, I thought it was a penalty straight away. The moment he touched it away from Hughes and there was contact and Sterling went to the ground, you just knew it was a penalty. Hughes' reaction as well.
Yeah.
It kind of said it was a penalty, but also looking back on the replays, like you say, Hughes has probably a case to probably say to the ref, why have you given that? He didn't. He just turned his back, didn't he? Couldn't believe. It's similar to the Capoue bit, wasn't it? Sticking a foot out, or he didn't really need to. But just before the penalty would go away, Cleverley was caught in midfield, wasn't he? He was a bit too slow and lost it. And then City are so quick when they get the ball in attack and just caught us out at the back, didn't it?
Massively. And James, are you sort of echoing Ben's thoughts there? Did you think it was a penalty first hand, and then maybe when the replay's shown, you thought, actually, we're being done by here, or have you got no complaints at all?
Yeah, I think Ben summed up pretty well there. Obviously, Raheem Sterling's got extremely quick feet. And Manchester City on the counter are a very difficult team to track, and they've got a lot of runners going forward. And obviously, when you're sticking your feet out, at the edge of the box, and you've got players like Raheem Sterling on the ball, it's not going to end well. And as Ben said, I don't think Will Hughes done himself any favours, not complaining to the referee that he did get that slight touch on the ball.
Yeah. And I think, do you know what? I think a lot about Will Hughes not saying anything has got to do with confidence. When you see the ref point to the spot there, you've sort of brought him down. Yeah, you probably know you've touched the ball, but you're just thinking, I'm not even going to bother. Like, confidence is low as it is.
I think that shows the confidence in the whole squad. I don't think anyone reacted to say that wasn't a penalty. They were 1-0 down already, and then there was a penalty given against them. They just kind of down tools a little bit then.
Yeah, I think heads started to drop a lot more when.
But what a fantastic save from Foster from the actual penalty.
Well, this is what I'm going to go into next, Ben. Yeah, let's jump the gun, shall we?
All right.
Has one appearance on Radio 1 and thinks he can start running a joint, ladies and gents. This is what happens, right? Very good point. I thought it was a brilliant save, but when looks against you, what can you do? Like, he saved it superbly, but no one was quick enough to Sterling. And to be honest, I wouldn't have expected him to be. It was an absolutely brilliant save. But I think that just sums up Foster. He's made some superb saves this season and then had some not so good sort of moments. But when looks against you, that sort of thing happens. And I can't fault Foster for that. I think David Seaman once said years ago, if you save a penalty, you're a hero, but you're not necessarily expected to save one. So I wasn't necessarily expecting Foster to sort of save that one. But I think when it was 2-0, James, I don't know about you, but 2-0, I thought that's it now. We're not coming back from this. I think we just need to keep the score down.
Yeah, absolutely. It was purely damage limitation. Going into that second half 2-0 down. And actually, I've got a stat here in front of me from Sky Sports that actually
we love
shows...
a stat on this show, James.
And he loves saying that.
Yeah. That's a catchphrase on this show, James.
That's right. I'll learn. So yeah, I've got the stat in front of me, and it does just show how much we were dominating in that first half. And the stat is that Rodri, Manchester City's defensive midfielder, actually completed more passes in the first half than the entire Watford team combined, which when I saw that, I was shocked.
Well, I was and I wasn't. I thought if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be a Man City central defensive mid. But it just, like you just said there, James, it just goes to show the sheer class. Or would you say it's the sheer class of Man City, or the sort of the lack of play from Watford? What would you say, Ben? What would you say? Would you say? Bloody hell, that I almost swore then. I'm going to try and not swear on this podcast, but would you say it's more a brilliant sort of classy play from Man City and it sort of outlines them? Or would you say, well, actually, people need to start pointing a few things at Watford if they're getting, if a player is passing more than the entire team?
If I'm honest, I think Watford players are scared to play Man City after the 6-0 FA Cup final and then the 8-0 defeat at the Etihad Stadium this season. I think we're petrified whenever we come up against Man City, so I think that comes into it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And do you know what? It's never a good time to concede against Man City, but that penalty definitely wasn't. 5 minutes before half time, you don't want to be conceding before half time, full stop, but especially not going 2-0 down at Man City. And I think you guys have picked up on it. It was from there on in, it was damage limitation. And if the lads weren't thinking about it before, they definitely were going into the break. And to be honest, I was happy I thought, right, after that goal, I thought, okay, let's make it into the break 2-0. We do not want to be conceding a third. And we made it into the break. We made it into the break for 2-0, which we will take. We won't take, but based on how the game was going at the time, you will. What would you, James, if you was in the dressing room at half time and you had the Watford team in front of you, and try and keep it clean, but what would you what would you have said to the Watford players at half time? Because let's be honest, we wouldn't have been expecting to win, not even before the game, but especially not 2-0 down. What would you have said at half time?
Right, I'm obviously not a football manager, Mike. That's not. So look, what would I have said? There's obviously been reports going around that most of the Watford squad are due a 50% pay cut if we do get relegated. So first off, if that's not an incentive to try and keep the score down, I don't know what else is, because that is quite frankly quite a huge wage cut. But in terms of what I would have said, it is difficult. I would have probably shown them a few videos of some Watford fans and said, look, this is who you're playing for. They might not have been in the stadium today, but these are the fans you are playing for, and quite frankly, your jobs are on the line.
Yeah. No, well, do you know what? I think...
I like that. That.
And do you know what? I'm not usually one for these sort of team talks. You know, you see teams whereby they'll have posters put up and whatnot of fans' tweets and whatnot. I'm not really one for that, but I genuinely think with the way that this club is so sort of community run, I think it'd be no harm this Sunday, and I appreciate I'm going off topic here because we've still got the second half to talk about, but this Sunday, I would show those Watford players just some tweets, not offensive ones, just tweets from fans outlining their anger and sort of frustration at how the team's been playing. Show them some videos as well, like James has said. These things can have an effect on the minds. And as long as we just show a bit of fight, that's all I'll be happy for. But yeah, so obviously 2-0 at the break, not ideal. Coming out second half and you're thinking, okay, we've got to keep the score down now. And when you're playing a low block against Man City, it's never great. So when Phil Foden goes and taps it in on 63 minutes, that wasn't great. Raheem Sterling looked certain to get his hat-trick, but again, Ben Foster made a brilliant save. But Ben, what the hell was going on with that rebound? What was the defending all about there?
It was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. It was just awful. It was like watching Sunday League football, the defending sometimes this season, and that was another example of it against Man City for their third goal. Sterling was just fantastic that game, wasn't he? And that run onto that goal was just outstanding. It's so quick when he gets the ball out of his feet and he just runs at defenders. It would petrify me if I was defending against him.
Yeah, and sorry, I should have said before that, we obviously saw quite a big change up in the way that we were going to actually face the second half. We actually saw Troy Deeney play sort of, I don't know if you can go as far as saying maybe a CDM, maybe just in front, James. I don't know how you'd describe it. And then Sarr was more central, and it was clear that we were going to sort of try and get the ball up to Sarr, and he's just going to run. Sarr, who I actually think had quite a poor game, he was offside more than he was onside. Very frustrating, but I suppose that's what happens when you don't utilise him. But would you say that Troy was maybe sitting in, trying to help us sort of defend, or we were really trying to pack that midfield in the second half, weren't we?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Troy, because I noticed that change as well. And actually, at points, I know he was almost playing as like as a left back at points.
Yes, in the first half he was. Yeah,
that it really shocked me, and I thought we're not utilising him how he should be utilised, and he's not. We're playing a striker as almost, as you say, a centre defensive midfielder. He was dropping so deep that in them brief spells where we did get the ball, there was no one up there, and when we did get the ball, City's press was so quick that we lost possession almost instantly. Yeah,
and I get the idea that he's probably wants to show that he's getting himself about and whatnot, but when effectively he's playing on one leg, so to speak, it's not going to be great, and he didn't obviously come off. So, and Phil Foden obviously made it 3-0. And just on a side note, what a talent he looks, by the way. Really, really excited in terms of looking at it from an England fan perspective, because he looks very, very exciting. And then we sort of thinking, okay, please, no more Watford, please. Goal difference is on the line here. 3 minutes is all it took after that. And the defending from a set piece, and it's just deja vu with set pieces from with Watford. Like, it was just terrible defending. Like, we are quite a big physical team, and Man City aren't the tallest of sides. So to see us lose out in sort of a free kick like that, I can only put it down to the lack of confidence, because Laporte's not had the best of seasons from what I've heard, and what the commentator said. And then he's gone and cropped up with a goal, which will probably do his confidence a world of good now. But like, it was just for 3 minutes after the Phil Foden goal, it was just no good at all. And the final nail in the coffin, if you like, not as if 3-0 wasn't. But Ben, just when that fourth goal went in, I don't know about you, but I was certainly thinking we can't take a 5 or 6, or we can't do it. Did you actually think that was on the horizon again? Because 4-0 at 66 minutes, there was still a lot of football to play.
Yeah, I was dreading the final 20-odd minutes. Seriously thought it was going to be much more than 4 after they did that. It was wave after wave after wave of attack with City, and somehow we managed to keep it down to 4. But for the fourth goal by Laporte, I thought it was just a lack of concentration, and that went in 3 minutes after Foden's goal. I think heads dropped and confidence dropped as well.
Yeah, same old story with Watford from set pieces, lack of concentration, and it's 4-0. James, was you fearing the worst? Was you fearing maybe another 5, 6, 7, maybe another 8-0 drubbing? What was you thinking when that fourth goal went in?
Yeah, I thought the floodgates were going to open. As you guys just touched on, it was attack after attack. I think Laporte actually got in front. I think it might have been Mariappa, and I think Laporte's about 6'4", 6'5", and that's a mismatch, isn't it, against Mariappa, who's about 5'5". So yeah, look.
And we've heard that before, haven't we? We saw over Kiko last week.
Exactly. Yeah, you'd think we'd learn. Obviously not.
I think we zonal mark, don't we? So
yes. Yeah, very.
And I'm not really a fan of zonal marking in terms of marking the space rather than marking the man. So look, I was fearing the worst. I did think we were gonna. Well, City did go on to score a fifth, didn't they? But
Yeah.
that was ruled
Thanks
out
for
for
the
offside.
linesman's flag. Yeah, Jesus. I genuinely thought when it was 4-0, I thought, right, this could be a cricket score. I went upstairs to get my calculator and come back down thinking it was going to be like 6, 7, 8. But no, luckily we hang on to the 4. I'd love to sit here and sort of talk about chances that we created and shots we had on target. But I think probably the best chance we had, I think, was probably Dawson in the first half, which was a real half chance, like not even worth covering. And then Danny Welbeck, who we'll talk about in a minute now, but Danny Welbeck, sort of his touch let him down. But listen, anyone that knows me, and there must be a million recordings of me saying this on podcasts, I hate slating Troy. But how much better, James, did we look when Danny Welbeck come on? Like, just how much more mobile and how willing to go forward is he? He just looks like someone we've been screaming out for. Do you not think?
Yeah, exactly. He looks like a top-class player. Obviously, he's been out injured for the majority of the season, but I think if he keeps his match fitness up, match sharpness, he could easily play for a top 4 or top 6 side. I think the main thing for me was we were playing rather than the long ball up to Troy, which we always just keep on playing, and it's so frustrating. We got the ball into his feet, and I think that's where some of our players actually excel. I think a lot of our players are technical players, and Danny Welbeck with the ball at his feet, he's a lot more dynamic than Troy, and he can make them runs in behind. And as you say, he did get through one-on-one, but Edison smothered the shot, unfortunately, for Watford.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben, I'm sure you're not going to disagree because I've seen seen some of your tweets this weekend, mate. And well, not this weekend, this week, but I don't understand why nobody's picking Danny Welbeck, because surely going into this Arsenal game, you've got to start Welbeck, because how much more mobile is he than Troy? Obviously, it doesn't help that Troy's got his injuries and whatnot. He's 32, he's not getting any younger, but he's just completely different outlet and someone we've been screaming out for a while, Ben.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with Troy's injuries at the moment, we should be starting Danny Welbeck over him. We're playing with Troy Deeney when he's at 60% best, probably, or even less at the moment. He's not very effective. Danny Welbeck offers so much more. He offers pace. He's so much mobile. He links up well with the midfielders. He comes short. He runs in behind. He's good in front of goal. I just think he's a better option, and it's good for Watford fans to actually see we've got a striker who will make those runs in behind now, because we don't have it with Troy Deeney. Like James says, it's just long ball after long ball up to Troy Deeney, and I'm just sick of seeing it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Watford fans, although we didn't create much and didn't really get many passes, we were definitely passing it a lot more. And we've not been doing that under Pearson. We seem to be content with just getting the ball, hoofing it up. Foster had a few wayward sort of clearances and goal kicks, but that wasn't to be. Now, obviously, I'm cautious about time and whatnot, but I just want to touch on going into the next game. We've got Arsenal. They're calling it Super Sunday. I want to touch on it very quickly. Bear in mind, Foster's come out and said that confidence is at an all-time low, which I'm not overly surprised about, and I don't think a lot of Watford fans will be. Aston Villa obviously winning against Arsenal. They go level on points with us, but goal difference is better by 1. If Aston Villa lose to West Ham, we only need to draw. There are more sort of implications in terms of the scoreline that Villa can lose, meaning that we'd be able to lose as well. But I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking, right, if Villa are going to lose, then we need to draw or win. In terms of team selection, Ben, we'll go with you first. Is there anyone that you're changing? And I think one of the answers we'll know because you've literally just come off the back of saying it. But is there anything you're changing to that starting 11 going into the Arsenal game? And are you changing the formation from a 4-5-1 and maybe going for it more?
I would probably bring in Messina for Mariappa. I know he was awful against West Ham, but I think he's had a rocket up his arse now. He knows himself how badly he performed against West Ham, and we have seen him pull out performances this season, where he's even been man of the match in a couple of games. So I'd probably bring in him for Mariappa, and then the obvious is Danny Welbeck coming in for Troy Deeney. As for formation, I'd probably keep it as it is. It's going to be difficult because we're playing at the same time as Villa, so there's going to be whispers coming in of the scoreline and that. Obviously, if you hear Villa are winning, I think you'd have to change the formation and probably put another striker on. You've got to open up the game and try and go at them a bit more, because we need to win if Villa are winning. And we'll have to better their score as well. So I probably wouldn't change the formation until maybe later on into the game.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, personally, just before we'll go to James, I'd probably go for it a bit more. I genuinely think all the pressure's on Villa now to go out and finish the job off. They're in the driving seat at the moment. Arsenal were very poor against Villa, and I think people are still sort of expecting Arsenal to beat Watford. So I think the worst we can do is I would possibly put Troy up front with Danny Welbeck, let them two work together, bounce off each other. Sarr obviously has to start. Bring Messina in, switch him over to the left, and then Femenia to the right, which I assume that's what you meant as well. And I would go with Pereira. I'd stick with him because I was very impressed with him. I really, really was. And I don't know whether Capu's going to be back or not. But James, in terms of starting 11, firstly, is there anything you'd change? Secondly, what formation would you go, bearing in mind how sort of big a win could be if other results go our way?
Yeah, as you said this there, I think we've got nothing to lose now. I think if you asked me at this point in December that going into the final day would have a chance to secure Premier League safety, I would have bitten your hand off. So I think Watford fans need to be a bit more optimistic than they are being, considering the situation we were in. But in terms of team selection, I'd go with that 4-4-2 formation with Troy and Welbeck up top. I think a lot of fans will be calling for Troy to be dropped.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. I think it seems that it seems like at the moment he has to say whether he's in the team or not. And I think he will be itching to play. We know Troy's history of Arsenal with cojones and the whole of that situation. And the only other change I'd make, as you say, Messina back in, but I'd take Cleverley out. I thought Cleverley had a really poor performance against Manchester City. He was at fault, I'd say, for at least one of the goals, giving the ball away in midfield. And I think I'd bring in Nathaniel Chalobah. Yeah,
very interesting, considering that's what the Pozzos weren't particularly happy about with Pearson not starting Chalobah, actually. So that's very interesting, and I don't think many Watford fans would argue that as well, James, to be honest. So, and then just lastly, I think we'll finish up on is the burning big question for you both. Ben, as you're my co-host, I'll throw you under the bus first again. Firstly, I want your score predictions, and then secondly, after score predictions, I want to know if you think we'll stay on.
Cheers, mate.
My pleasure.
Score predictions. 2-1 Watford.
Oh, I like it. Who's scoring, Ben?
Welbeck both.
Welbeck both against his old club.
Exactly that. 2-1 against Arsenal. Welbeck to score both goals. And am I saying if I think we'll stay up or not?
Yeah, do you think if we were to win 2-1, do you think that means that Aston Villa will have lost against West Ham, meaning that we'll stay up? Or do you think Villa will get a win against West Ham, considering at the moment they're currently drawing 1-1? So a defeat against United could sort of push West Ham on. So, yeah, do you think we'll stay up? That's the burning question.
No.
No?
I don't.
Okay.
I honestly don't see it. Even if we win, I think I don't know why. I don't rule out Bournemouth. I see Bournemouth going to Everton, and I can see them turning it on. I honestly do. I know we don't particularly like Bournemouth much, but I really see them going to Everton, and I could even see them going there and maybe winning 3-0. So, and that would make their goal difference better than us and possibly Villa, even if Villa win by 1 goal. So, I'm not ruling them out completely.
No. Okay, that's very interesting. James, score prediction, and then will we stay up?
Right then. So I've been having a think while you guys have just been talking there. I'm going to go with the Watford game. Troy Deeney, 90th minute volley into the top right-hand corner to pee off all them Arsenal fans who love to slate him. In terms of the Aston Villa game, I think they'll get a draw minimum. So we are going to have to at least match their result not match the result. We have to better their result, don't we? So
we do indeed.
So I think Aston Villa will score. In terms of will we stay up? Yes, we will.
Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, at the moment, as it stands, whilst we're recording this on Wednesday night, they are into the last minute. Manchester United and West Ham, and it's 1-1. So as it stands, West Ham are safe. West Ham cannot get relegated and are staying up. I don't think it was ever an issue with West Ham, as we've touched upon previously. I would have preferred if West Ham would have lost, because that would have meant there was more riding on the Villa game. I am going to go... I really want to be positive because you two have now. I've sort of half resigned the fact...
I said we're going to get relegated.
well, yeah, no, you did actually, yeah. Well, no, I'm going off the back of James. James was a positive one. Should have him on more often, Ben. Come on. Yeah, I am going to go with Watford 2, Arsenal 1. And I think Troy Deeney's going to score, and I think Sarr is going to score as well. And Arsenal, Aubameyang will score because he always scores against us. So 2-1. And, oh God, this is going to kill me. I just think I'm going to get slated for what I'm about to say, by the way. So I hope you guys are happy. But I just think Aston Villa's away record is too poor. I know that they're coming off the back of a good win against Arsenal, but I just think that their away record is worse than ours. So I just think that I'm really, really clinging on to like the last few straws that I can clutch onto. So yeah, we're going to stay up, I think. My emotions will probably change from now till Sunday. Sunday is going to be possibly one of the hardest things I've ever endeavoured as a Watford fan. I
don't want to watch it.
No, I again, we'll quickly touch upon this, but I don't know about you guys, but in fact, we'll all actually have different views on this because of the age range here. But I saw a tweet from Pat McNicholas saying that he was having a conversation with his mate, and I'm 25 for those that don't know, but if you think about it, the relegation in 06-07 for someone of my age, I wouldn't have really felt that because I was I was 11, 12 possibly, and this is the first relegation. The 99-2000, I was 4 years old, for God's sake, so I definitely wouldn't have felt anything there. This is the real first relegation scrap my team has been in my lifetime, of an age where I'm thinking where it actually means more to me. Sunday is going to be one of the worst sort of days I'm going to have to endeavour. Ben, what are your experiences of relegation fights? I'm sure you've seen probably many, haven't you? I actually don't mean that as a dig either.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
I can only really remember the two that we've been relegated from the Prem before, under A.D. Boothroyd and then the Graham Taylor one. And to be fair, they weren't really relegation scraps. We weren't fighting last day of the season to remain into the Premier League.
So this one's going to be a tough watch, isn't it?
This one is a tough one. And like earlier on, I came across a video that I popped out on our Twitter page of like Watford's best bits in the Premier League, and it got me a bit emotional watching it and thinking this Sunday could be the last game we have in the Premier League for a while, and I don't want to think about it too much. But yeah, it's going to be nerve-wracking. I don't know how I'm going to deal with it. Luckily, I've got some distractions during the day because it's my missus' baby shower. But
very lucky, man.
I don't want to watch a game. I really don't want to watch it. It just, yeah, it's too raw.
Yeah, and James, is this your? Because I actually don't know how old you are, James. Although we've been speking quite a lot now, I don't actually know how old you are.
Well, I'm 19, so
19,
that 06-07 season.
Again, eh?
No, that 06-07 season, I was only 7 years old. So
Yeah.
I think I was just happy to go to football at that point with my family, to be honest with you. I don't think I took it all in.
No.
So obviously there's been a few close calls while I've been in the Premier League, under Walter Mezzari, for example, but nothing's compared to this season going down to the final days. So
no. And will you be glued to the television on Sunday, or are you going to try and keep yourself distracted? Or
well, for me, it's either watch both games on 2 separate screens, which a lot of people, I assume, will be doing.
Ooh, you brave man, James.
Or I was just going to go for a nice cycle, have a nice time out in the sunshine, and find out when I get back.
No, you can't do that. No. You're 19. What you want to do, mate, is get a load of beers in, get absolutely hammered, and then it doesn't matter come 6 p.m.
Where are you cycling? I might join you.
Yeah. Oh God. But yeah, no. Sunday is going to be like one of the hardest days I've known. I say this. A load of my mates that are Villa fans are crapping themselves for it. And I'm sitting there, I'm reading the messages, and I'm thinking, but you're in the driving seat. But if they want to stress about it, that's fine. Let put all the pressure on them. But yeah, I alluded to the fact, I sort of hinted that if we do stay up, and this is confirmed, I will be going to Watford at 6 p.m. And I'll be going down. And I believe that there's probably going to be a gathering around the pond, as there usually is when we've got promoted previously. But I will be going down to Watford at 6 p.m. I'll see what crowd's about and see what the vibe's saying. And then if it's a good enough one, I will do a podcast, sort of a live podcast from there. And it'll be sort of a real big party atmosphere. But yeah, Sunday's going to be a real tough watch. But yeah, we've sort of, it's a slightly longer one, but I think it's more apt because it's our first guest appearance and we've had quite a lot to cram in. So if you've listened to the whole thing, we do thank you very much. What we've decided to do as well, off the back of last night's live feed, me and Ben are going to be looking at doing the preview shows as a live Instagram. So we hope that you guys can join us. If you don't follow us on Instagram, our username is @Voices of the Vic. And also, guys, if you don't already, firstly, what the hell are you doing? And secondly, go and check out James's channel. It's @Watford Way. Is that right, James? Is that the Twitter handle?
The Watford Way, yeah.
The Watford Way. They're on YouTube as well. They put out some brilliant previews with opposition fans, and then they put out match reviews as well. And go and follow them. They're on Facebook as well, I believe, and Instagram. So go and follow them. Check them out The Watford Way if you've not already. Really, really good insight into sort of news that comes out of Watford and sort of review news. So go and check them out. But yeah, James, listen, thank you very much for joining me and Ben. It's been a real pleasure. And I'm sure we'll probably chat again sometime. And hopefully, if we do, we can have a big bumper episode to party about the fact that we've stayed in the Premier League.
No worries. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been great to vent my frustrations about Watford, and yeah, I hope to be on again very, very soon.
Yeah, hopefully. And Ben, just before we go, let's hope next time that we speak, we'll still be a Premier League podcast, eh?
I really hope so. It'd be a shame if we've been relegated and we're going to start doing Championship podcasts. But I'm really enjoying doing these podcasts with you, mate, and long may they continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely echo that. So, listen, thanks for tuning in as always, guys. And we'll be back with you after Sunday. And hopefully, I'll be with you on Sunday if all goes to plan. But yeah, thanks for tuning in as always, guys. We really do appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.